Hello, and welcome to An Idol Called Food. I'm your host, JT Tapias, and in this podcast, we dive into subjects that edify the mind, the body, and the spirit. This episode is brought to you by EYBPlanFuel.com. EYBPlanFuel.com supplements that not only enrich your life, but also empower you to be the best version of yourself. Without further ado, let's unravel today's topic. Have you ever been on a relentless pursuit to discover the secret to health and longevity? Well, today we're going to dive into a unique method that stands apart from all conventional approaches. While we all strive for the magic bullet, sometimes the answers are simpler than we think. I've been in the fitness and nutrition industry for the past 23 years. It feels like it's been a breeze. I can't believe it's been this long. And as I sit back and I think about some of the most powerful lessons that I have learned in the area of coaching people on initially losing weight. That's what most people would come to our gym. They would come through the door and say, I need to lose weight. I need to keep it off. I've been on all these other plans. The weight comes off and it comes right back with a vengeance. And I need this weight off once and for all. And so I started on that quest. I was very frustrated in the beginning as a personal trainer because I was passionate about seeing people change, but yet I would see people come in 6 days a week and put forth such an incredible effort and yet not get the results that I thought they would get. Because I always thought, especially when I was studying to be a trainer and with my own fitness journey, I always thought, if you put in the hours, if you put in the time, then the results will come. And to an extent, that's true. But I would also notice with some of the other competitors that I knew in the time when I was competing, that they would go from literally being complete couch potatoes to just being ripped and looking like superheroes in no time. And the first thing that comes to mind is, of course, most people are skeptics and they think, well, that person's taking steroids. And, it's very possible. But some of these guys I knew intimately and they weren't taking anything. They just had some hacks. And I don't know if you know this, but bodybuilders have the lowest body fat percentages in any athlete, because that's the name of the game. The lower your body fat percentages, the higher your striations and your muscle, the faster you win competitions. That's what it's all about, right? It's an aesthetic sport. You have to look a certain way in order to win. And so a lot of these guys had to figure out certain things that would make them look exceptional in very, very short periods of time. And I was very, very interested in that. I wanted the hacks. I wanted the tricks. I wanted to put some meat on my bones. I was coming from playing soccer. I was a midfielder. I used to run 12 to 15 miles per game. I couldn't keep any weight on. So I wanted to hack the trick to put muscle on. And I started to watch these bodybuilders and they were doing very specific things. I want you to think of this. I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but have you been to a conventional gym, an LA Fitness, a Planet Fitness, one of these conventional gyms? And for some reason, you have showed up early, 5 a.m., 6 a.m., and you see this guy on the treadmill with a hoodie on. This is the stereotypical bodybuilder. And he has a hoodie on and he has a big jug of water right beside the treadmill. And he's going super slow on the treadmill or elliptical. And you're thinking to yourself, wow, is this guy even awake? But then all of a sudden, he gets off of the treadmill for 45, 60 minutes. He takes this big sweater he has off. And he looks like a modern day superhero. And you're like, what in the world is this person doing? Well, what bodybuilders have figured out is that when they're dieting, which by the way, 80 to 90% of your results, especially closer to competition, have more to do with your nutrition than actually lifting weights. The lifting weights happens throughout the process. And yes, that's an important part. But the most important part is really dialing in your nutrition, your water, your sodium, all these things, okay? Now, I know I'm not speaking to bodybuilders for the most part here, but please hang in there, bear with me because I have something very solid for you. I have some inside information that can help you decrease body fat percentages and lose unwanted weight like never before, so just bear with me. And so these bodybuilders, what they need to do is dial their nutrition into a point where everything is exact, everything is measured, their water, their sodium, all these different things. And right towards the end of the competition, what's happening is that they are depleted. They are severely depleted. And most of them can't really train at that point. They can't lift weights because they're so depleted. And it actually it's going to go against what they're trying to do, which is really have like that fullness in the muscle. But they need to continue to keep those body fat percentages low. So instead of running, sprinting, biking, or doing any of those high cardiovascular activities that the vast majority you think bring the biggest return on investment, what they're doing is actually an exercise called power walking. Now, it's not just walking to walk. It's a very specific walk. And I'm going to give you a heart rate here specifically for you so that you can go apply this tomorrow and get massive, massive returns on investment, even if your diet is not 100%. Now, if your diet is 100% and you add this component, which is what we do inside of the Empty Your Bucket Nutrition Plan, then it's game over because you'll look better than you've ever looked before. And you'll never yo-yo diet again because you'll realize that you can practice an 80-20. This is what we teach inside of our programs, right? And so there's a guy by the name Stu Middleman. Okay, Stu was actually introduced to me by Tony Robbins. I ended up going to one of these motivational conferences that Tony was putting on. And on his very last day, it's funny because I was going to leave. I was being very arrogant, and my friend said, well, it's all about fitness and nutrition. I had been in the fitness and nutrition industry for, as a trainer and a coach for a long time. And I said, what's this guy going to teach me about fitness? Thankfully, I stayed, and he introduced us to Stu Middleman. Stu Middleman is basically, he was an endurance athlete who in his 60s, right, decided to challenge himself. And he actually, he ran from San Francisco to New York, I believe, consecutively for, I think it was 30 days. And it's like running 30 marathons each day. He did it in his 60s. He made it, no injuries. And the way he prepared for it was through this thing called power walking. Now, it was interesting because Stu had studied some native indigenous people in Central America who were well known for their longevity rates. They had no cavities. They had pristine teeth, and yet they had never been to a dentist in their entire lives. They had great cognitive health. They were healthy. They were happy. And he wanted to know, like, what are these people doing? Well, he found out that every single day they were walking anywhere between 6 to 12 miles. It was just the ritual for them. But he noticed that their body fat percentages were low. They were strong. They looked like bodybuilders, yet they weren't lifting weights. And so he went back and he tried it for himself, and he started to prepare for these ultra marathons that he was part of by simply walking. And he said he went from a level from 0 to 10, 0 being none, 10 being just an elite athlete. He said he went from being a 7 to being a 10 overnight simply by incorporating slow burn cardio. And he said that in the process of doing that, he decreased his body fat percentages like never before without changing anything in his diet. So this is the beautiful thing about slow burn cardio. I'm telling you, this is one of the best hacks out there. It's actually gotten a lot of popularity. I want to say that because I put so many videos out there, someone's caught on to this and they've tried it. Now everyone's talking about it. But that's just me and my prideful self. Most likely people are just realizing, hey, this is something powerful. And so if you're intrigued by this and you've struggled, right? You've had a hard time incorporating slow burn cardio walks or any kind of cardio. You're just like, just don't have the time. I don't know if it's efficient. I'm telling you right now, if you incorporate this is going to be amazing. Okay. So here's the transformative formula. And simply put, it's this. I want you to take a calculator and I want you to take the number 220. Okay. And I want you to minus your age. Okay. Whatever your age is. Then I want you to multiply that by 0.60. And that's going to give you your low end. Okay. So if you're 33, that maybe you want to round it off to 115. Then you take the number again, 220. Minus your age multiplied by 0.70, and that's going to give you something, for example, like 130. So let's say 115, 130. What you want to do is you want to stay in that range for 45 to 60 minutes, ideally, if possible, on an empty stomach. Now, this is the best free advice you have ever and will ever receive in your life. I'm telling you right now, if you listen to what I have to say, this will radically change your life for the positive. As we wrap up, I want to remind listeners that sometimes the most effective solutions lie in the simplest actions. And before I sign off, I want to remind you that it doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't have to be painful. You just have to be consistent. I think we often operate out of this belief system that if we're not sweating bullets, if we're not hurting, then it must not be working, right? Because if it doesn't hurt, then, maybe it's not valuable enough. Well, I'm here telling you something very different. This is a very brisk walk. You might not even sweat, but if you do it consistently, if you stick to the heart rate that I just gave you, you're going to see some powerful results in your life. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. More importantly, I hope you put it to action. As I said early, we enjoy speaking about things that edify the mind, the body, and the spirit. I hope you take part in this slow burn cardio. Let me know how it goes. I would love to hear how these things go for you. Give it at least a good 2 to 3 weeks before you start to see some massive, massive returns on investment. My name is JT Tapias with an idol called food. I hope you enjoyed that. Talk to you soon. Ciao, ciao.